Oh man, oh man, oh man. People thought I was crazy for saying Nintendo co-owned the rights to the Bayonetta IP with Sega. But I was right, and I explained it to you guys. It's been there in the copyrights for a while, since Smash Brothers and Bayonetta 2. And if you know how copyright law works, you know how business works, you would know this just like I do. Hideki Kamiya, the man himself. Uh, this guy's amazing. You know, he's the creator of Bayonetta. He's the creator of Wonderful 101, lots of other games. He worked on Devil May Cry and Okami and Beautiful Joe back when he was at Capcom. So, you know, he's one of the, you know, head honchos of Platinum Games. One of my favorite studios in the industry right now. They've been one of my favorites for the past several years, actually. Ever since they pretty much made the original Bayonetta, you know, they've always been really awesome. Um, but this is kind of a follow up to one of the videos I did a couple months back, and it was a video that actually got a lot of attention and a lot of feedback, and I was actually shocked that it got a lot of positive feedback. It was the Bayonetta 3 Salt is Real video. I mean, I got over like 7,000, almost 8,000 views on it, well over 200 likes, only 20 dislikes. I was actually shocked. Almost 250 comments. It was a really big video that I did because I mean most of my videos, I mean they don't get a whole lot of views. You know, I don't take YouTube too seriously. I just, you know, do it for the fun. But that got a lot of attention because of the hype around Bayonetta 3. And the thing about it is, I was actually shocked to see more positivity than negativity. Of course, there were still people that didn't understand what I was talking about when I talked about saying how you will never ever see another Bayonetta game on another system besides the first one. And I was right. Kamiya explains it right here. He pretty much tells you for Bayonetta 1, all the rights belong to Sega. They signed the contract with them, they received the funding, and then with Sega in the contract, they reserve the rights for the IP and for that game. At the time, then, see, they were going to develop it exclusively for 360. Then they decided to do a PS3 version as well. And then, like they mentioned before, it was the Steam version that came out. And it's all for the first game, which Sega owns the rights to completely. And that makes sense. For Bayonetta 2, he pretty much tells you that initially Sega was funding the game, but Sega was, you know, in the red with their funding. They decided to pull the plug on a lot of different projects, and Bayonetta 2 being one of them because Bayonetta 1 didn't really perform, you know. Sega didn't really advertise it that well. They didn't do much to push it. So it didn't perform as well as they hoped, and when they were in the red, they cut a lot of stuff out. The project, so they had to halt it. But, and as we all know, Platinum Games, you know, they had tried to get funding for it. Nintendo was the one that stepped in to continue funding the game. But because they're funding it, the way Nintendo works is when they fund something, they're gonna do it. They're a hardware company here in the industry. They have a hardware out there, whether it was the Wii at the time and they were planning for Wii U, or if it's a Switch now. They've always had hardware. Do you see someone like Sony who do you see them funding the development of Spider-Man, but then going and saying, "Hey, you can make an Xbox One version"? No, they're not going to, because if a company funds a game, and the fact that that company has hardware out there in the industry, they're going to want to put it on their hardware because it drives sales. It makes people go, oh, well, I want to play this game, I have to buy the hardware. That's why exclusives matter. Exclusives aren't made to be anti-consumer like a lot of people think. They're not made to be anti-consumer. There's so many people who want who nowadays say exclusives are bad. Everyone should have all the games. If that's the case, then there's no point to have a Nintendo console, Sony console, and a Microsoft console. At that point, we should just get rid of the consoles and everyone should be on PC. And I know there's probably people thinking, well, that's good. That's what we should do. But no, if you have just one platform out there that's free for all like that, there's no competition, which doesn't breed the creativity. Games get stale, and then that leads into a video game crash, like what happened in the 70s and 80s. People do not know how this works. They don't know how the industry works. They don't know how business works. They don't know how competition works, and they don't know their history. Several companies over the past 3 or 4 decades just have dropped the ball completely, and they've suffered for it. Funding a game, and then by funding it, securing the rights to it on your platform that you have out there in the industry is a leading business decision. And the fact that you have someone like Nintendo doing that, it might make Sony go, well, we need to one-up them. Let's make something even better. And that breeds the creativity, which who wins at the end of it all? Us gamers. Sure, we have to buy 1 or 2 systems, instead of just the one, but at the end of the day, we're getting more games. We're getting more creative games. We're not getting the same thing over and over and over again. People don't realize that. So yes, when it came to Bayonetta 2, Nintendo decided that, as per contract, they wanted to co-own the rights to the IP. They couldn't get the rights to Bayonetta 1 because, as per contract, Sega owns that version completely. It's pretty much kind of like how when Disney bought out Star Wars. The very first Star Wars, which is now Episode 4, A New Hope, the complete rights to that stayed with Fox. This is before the whole Fox and Disney merger. But Disney got the rights to the series as a whole, but not the rights to that first movie. Fox owned the complete rights to that movie indefinitely, as per contract. That's how this is. Nintendo co-owns the rights to the Bayonetta IP, meaning any future games will have to be approved by both them and Sega. And Nintendo is never going to say, oh yeah, I approve an Xbox version, I approve of a Steam version, I approve a PS4 version. They're not going to do that because they are a hardware leader in the industry. It's not that hard of a concept. It really isn't. But that doesn't stop Sega from making other versions of the first game. Even though Nintendo did fund a port of Bayonetta 1 for the Wii U, and they're funding it again for the Switch, but Nintendo, see, here's the thing. Sega owns the complete version of Bayonetta 1, but things that were made for the Wii U version, such as the Japanese voice track, Nintendo owns that little bit. And Nintendo allowed them to use it for the PC version of Bayonetta 1. So a lot of people scream, oh, Nintendo is holding the series hostage, blah, blah, blah. If the shoe was on the other foot, right? If this whole situation was the exact same, but it was Sony in place of Nintendo, no one would have a problem. No one would have a problem, even if Sony, funded the game and bought half the rights to it in the process. No one have a problem. Why? Because again, Sony and Microsoft, and I guess the PC as well, are the big boys in this industry, and Nintendo's just the step-headed, the red-headed stepchild, the little kid, the one that we can push around and bully and say, oh, it's kiddie, oh, it doesn't matter, oh, they're gimmicky, oh, they're this or that, blah blah blah, and that's how it's always been ever since the Super Nintendo days, and that's how it's always going to remain. And it blows my mind how people don't understand this. So people who ever request a future Bayonetta game, you're not going to get it anywhere outside Nintendo. That's just how it is. This is coming from the man himself, Hideki Kamiya. Nintendo and Sega, both the rights are with them. Until the day Nintendo decides to sell their portion of the rights, which isn't going to happen when they've had such success with the Bayonetta IP. It's not going to happen. The only time Nintendo's ever really let anything go that's been major is pretty much Rare, and that was only because Microsoft was very, very aggressively trying to buy them out. And at the time, Rare wasn't really. They were kind of a shell of their former self. They weren't delivering the content, so Nintendo just said, "Screw it, you can have them." So, but other than that, they don't. As far as big fish, they don't let it go when it's making them money. Like any good business should, you don't let something go that's giving you positive feedback and that's making you money. For all the negative feedback that the game is getting for being exclusive, that's just all going to make, for every one person complaining, that's going to make 5 more people interested in the game because you're raising awareness about the game. Even the negative publicity is going to make a positive spin at the end of the day, which is more money in Nintendo's pocket, which means more money, and it's going to be more money in Platinum and Sega's pocket, which also means more Bayonetta games in the future. And guess who wins? The Bayonetta fans and the gamers. That's who wins. It's not about fanboyism. It's not about console wars. It's not about, this or that. It's not about on a kiddie machine, on a weak machine. It's not about that. It's about who owns the rights to the IP. Nintendo and Sega. Sega doesn't really give a crap, but Nintendo, because they're a hardware leader in the industry, they're not going to put it on a different system. Again, Sony's not going to do that with their games either. I mean, seriously. I mean, you don't see me going around saying, "Oh, well, why is Sony holding Horizon Zero Dawn hostage? Why are they holding Crash Bandicoot hostage? Why? You don't see me doing that." There's a lot of people nowadays that claim every Nintendo fan, like every Nintendo fan, or most Nintendo fans, are port beggars, and that's not true. People say like Monster Hunter World. We don't want Monster Hunter World. We just want a localized version of Monster Hunter Double Cross, which is already on the Switch in Japan. All we need is an English version, and half the game is already in English anyways because of Monster Hunter Generations for the 3DS. So why can't we get that? Most Nintendo fans don't give 2 shits about Monster Hunter World. It's a very casual, streamlined, westernized, blah blah blah, whatever version of Monster Hunter. We want the true Monster Hunter Double Cross experience, which we already have exclusive to the Switch and Japan. We want that in the West. That's not port begging. That's just wanting something that we should already have. What else? Persona 5. I keep seeing this brought up. I see more people complaining about people port begging for Persona 5 than people actually port begging for Persona 5. And most Switch owners, they don't care about Persona 5 because the fact that Shin Megami Tensei 5, the original series is coming to Switch exclusively. And for people who do care, guess what? They own multiple consoles. I know, shocker, right? They own a Switch and they own a PS4, so they'll be able to experience Shin Megami Tensei 5 and Persona 5 at the same time and enjoy both. Isn't that a weird concept to enjoy multiple games on multiple systems? I know, right? Like, again, people will sit there and say, "Oh, Nintendo fanboys that, Nintendo fanboys that," and how, "Oh yeah, it's all that they got to do the console wars, blah blah blah." In reality, it's all these haters that are doing the console wars. All these people, for every one person that is actually port begging, there's like 10 or 20 other people complaining about it. Instead of complaining, why don't you go and play all the amazing exclusives that you have on the PS4 or on the PC and Steam or on the Xbox One, or I guess you can play Cuphead for the 18th time, but whatever. But that's what I mean. Just like that's why you don't see me complain. Like, okay, would I have liked Dragon Ball FighterZ to come to the Switch? Absolutely. Notice how I barely said anything about it because I don't need to. I have ARMS and Pokken Tournament DX and Street Fighter on my Switch. I got my fighting game fix. Smash Brothers will come one day as well. There'll be more fighting games coming out as well. I put 140 hours in Xenoblade 2. Bayonetta's coming out. Dragon Quest Builders. We got Kirby coming out. I have games to play. I'd rather be a gamer and play my games instead of sit here on the internet and constantly complain about stuff I don't have. When I have so much stuff already, why do I gotta complain about this specific game or this specific game? When I own a PS4, and if there's a game that I really want that isn't on Switch, I can go get it for PS4 9 times out of 10 because I'm a multiple console owner and because I'm not a fanboy like a lot of people claim. But hey, you know, keep claiming that Nintendo's holding the series hostage. Keep claiming that all Nintendo fans are port beggars. You know, even though, you know, a lot of Sony fanboys and Xbox fanboys and PC fanboys all sent death threats to Kamiya and people at Platinum Games and Nintendo, and a lot of people, you know, dropped multiple F-bombs on Twitter and you know, Instagram and Facebook and stuff, you know, when Bayonetta 3 was announced, and several years ago when Bayonetta 2 was announced. Yeah, you know, so but every Nintendo fan's a port beggar, right? Right? Even though you have all the other fanboys that are, you know, sending death threats. Yeah, you know, that's cool, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, right there, you know, from the big honcho himself, Hideki Kamiya. Without their help, we would not have been able to kick off this project. All the rights still belong to Sega and Nintendo. The rights owners decided that the game should be made for Switch. Exactly. What more do I have to say? What more does Hideki Kamiya have to say? Obviously, people are still going to complain, but hey, it's like I always say. Haters gonna hate, but gamers gonna game.
My body is ready. My body is ready.